So you found the skeleton. How would you tell it's a lucky size? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dapper Reacts. This is Dapper Reacts number something or other, I don't know, like 142, I think? Yeah, 142. I am here with Vishanti and Kip. Hello everybody. You can say hi, you're not muted.
We're off mute now. See, I just know you mute everyone.
I do, yeah.
So
Because
And yet he continues to speak.
because I know
Into the
you
void.
muted everyone. Does it distract you? Is that it? Am I distracting?
no, it distracts the audience because I'm trying to do an intro and then they're trying to hear me do an
but
intro.
I'm muted, so they don't ever hear, right? So
are you asking if I can't hear you? Like, what are you asking then, I guess? I don't know.
I'm asking if you're so bothered about me continuing to talk into your opening because it's distracting.
It would just be nicer if I knew that I didn't have to remember to mute everyone and keep everyone muted when I unmute myself and then go back.
No, but you're also a very helpful dinosaur.
It's true, I am.
In reminding us that you know it could be a hot mic.
Yeah,
which it has been.
Yeah, my rule of thumb is always assume.
Yeah, just assume the mic is hot.
Good. And I appreciate those reminders every single time because
Thank you.
I'm at this morning 5 minutes ago, not even 3 minutes ago included, right? Like it just because you never know. So
because if it is a hot mic, I'm not going to notice because that's the whole reason it's hot is because I didn't notice that I didn't mute it. So
right, yes. I got new earbuds. I was in the middle of telling you this 2 days ago, which is great because I've been missing
2 days to tell me that you got new earbuds.
No, but we don't
really
talk
slow.
every day.
Oh,
and I do talk really slow.
You say
well,
that like we're not in a group chat where you could just type
we
literally anything in.
Message every day.
Literally, yes. You're right. We do talk every day, but honestly, it's not like I have. It's not like I feel like I have useful information to share every day. So I don't tell you everything every day.
Useful. I just put shit posts in there all the time.
Everything.
Yeah, it's like half memes in there. What do you do? What are you talking about?
So, anyways,
it's like I'm trying to be very formal and important here. I don't want to tell you things that aren't very useful. Okay.
Were Beats.
Me shit posts.
And I blew the speaker on one of those, which was a thing I didn't even realize you could do. And I think the speaker on the second one is starting to go. So these ones are the ones I had before that were Sennheisers, which I really liked. And but the Bluetooth pairing feature on them broke. So I couldn't connect them to anything new. And I ended up getting, a replacement computer and a replacement phone. So I just couldn't use them on anything anymore, which made me sad. So I got some new Sennheisers, and I'm very happy so far.
I'm glad. All right, so we have a few things here. First of all, we have a $5 super chat from Tad is Mad. What will Kip be wrong about today? Types of mountains, what decade it is, Slayer albums. Stay tuned to find out. AIG is a phallus pack. Thank you very much. All right, so
wow,
you might notice that we have a few different differences from last week. One is we don't have the drink counter up, and we don't. Sorry. The other one is we don't have the thermometer that
what does this look like?
The little like funding thing. And the reason for that is because the monitor that I put such things on is currently dead, and I have had to buy a new monitor in order to have enough real estate to not have to like stack windows on top of each other, so that I can actually produce in a meaningful, like non-crazy manner. As a result, I am not keeping track of the total number of drinks. Also drinking just some caffeine rather than alcohol. I mean, it's not pure caffeine, obviously. It's mostly water. But, like, Anyway. Yeah. And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to keep track of how much we get, including with gifted members. on a separate device so that I don't have to, flip back and forth all over the place. But if we can get to enough to fund the new monitor, Kip and Vishanti have agreed to stay on an extra hour where we don't have to do any creationist stuff. We can just nerd out.
Vishanti did not agree.
Vishanti did not agree.
Announced.
I said,
It's
hey,
true.
if this works for you, and then you didn't object.
Yeah, that's also true. She just went, like that. But I know what that means.
Well, Vishanti
I might
definitely didn't object.
I might could stay, but that doesn't... Silence is not complicity in this instance.
Vishanti's staying. That's what's going to happen. I've declared it.
Voluntold.
Yep. Hey, I was in the Navy. You wouldn't believe how much I was voluntold for things.
Yeah, but you signed up for the Navy.
If they didn't tell me that being voluntold was going to be part of it, that wasn't in the contract.
That's literally what the military is.
Kind
you
of.
volunteer to do things, and they tell you to do it.
Yeah, but those things don't normally include things like, hey, you have to go meet with, like, the mayor of some random-ass town in Canada. Which is a thing I was voluntold to do.
You don't have free will.
They're like, hey, go put on your...
You were...
Sorry, go ahead.
Wow, we were told to go meet the mayor of somewhere in Canada.
Yeah. It was like the mayor and like the head of the Chamber of Commerce, and it turns out that it was actually a pretty good time because there was an open bar with no limit.
We know how to have a good time.
And so basically it was a good time because I got absurdly drunk. Absurdly drunk. Yeah. So, but yeah, like they were like, oh, put on your dress uniform and go to this thing where like the mayor and the like head of the Chamber of Commerce is going to be there to say thanks for showing up with an entire ass aircraft carrier full of thousands of people dumping money into the local economy. Because
off what coast was that?
It was BC. We were over by Vancouver.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen an aircraft carrier up here. But,
well, this was a while ago, so
But yeah. By the way, Lil of all trades, I don't believe there is a Kipville.
There should be.
There might be.
Let's start one.
There absolutely 100% should be. There is a Kip Road here in Chilliwack,
all right.
the small town that I live. Mm-hmm.
The royal family kind of sucks. So I say we rename Windsor, Ontario to Kipville, Ontario.
Yes, I'm into that.
All right.
Because I suck less.
Yeah. I mean, it would be hard for you not to, so
Right. Yes. By the way, I gotta say this looks really good.
I don't know what this
considering
is.
that your monitor. I'm watching the stream on the
my
okay phone here. Right, because you can't see anything. Can you?
From your phone? I'm
no.
So confused.
But I'm sorry. I'm saying that I can't even tell that your monitor is broken.
Oh,
based on what I'm seeing of the stream here.
Well, that's good because I have it carefully set up so that there's no black spaces or anything. I don't know what it would look like.
Yeah.
Well, what were you expecting it would look like if the monitor was broken?
I don't know. I was expecting chaos.
Okay, but like my computer doesn't know that the monitor is broken. Like, so if I were to screen capture from it, it would just look normal. I just couldn't use the monitor for visual input. So as far as my computer is concerned, nothing's wrong.
Something for visual input.
Yeah, my other two monitors.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Okay, Vandalia 1998 for $5 says, every contradiction in the Bible is actually a telling of what happened in a different timeline / universe. Citation needed. Thank you. Gonna go for Bible multiverse theory. I mean, at some point, maybe that's actually what they should do. The evangelical, quote unquote, literalists. Genesis 2 is an alternate timeline. That's the timeline where Thor went for the head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ben Thick Tunican for £5 says, I shall deliver Kip from bondage. Thank you. And also at 15 super chats, I will also be giving out a Steam key for I just accidentally
that one. There we
go.
go.
Let's see. For Vermintide 1, the first Vermintide. So it's a good game if you haven't played it. It's sort of like Left 4 Dead, but you're fighting off rats instead of zombies. All right, so we are here primarily to talk about Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas has just informed us that there are no contradictions in the Bible, and also that the formation of the canon of the Bible was miraculous, which I find a little weird, especially given that his particular canon was in part formed as a cost-saving measure by lazy book printers.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the fact that there's so goddamn many of them, maybe.
Canons?
And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so his canon, I like to think of it as sort of like a minimal Christian canon. Like, I'm not aware of any Christian groups that have a smaller canon than, like, Protestants, basically.
Christian groups.
Like, if you can think of one, I'd go for it.
Like, yeah. Now you have me. No, not them.
Because, I mean, the 27 books of the New Testament is pretty universal.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what else is in there? Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could have, theoretically, a Christian group that has culled the parts of the Old Testament. Current, right? Because Marcion's
right, but that's why I said
was
current.
Pretty small. Current,
yeah. It was only. Was.
You did say that.
I think it
you?
was like.
I only listened to half the things you say. So
fair. I think it was like. Yeah. What was it like? One gospel and like some of the Pauline epistles, and that's it, or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So.
And that one, it's really interesting because some have suggested. I haven't looked close enough into this, but some have suggested that the one gospel might have been, and we don't know, right? Because we just don't have it. Scholars have to pretend like they can reconstruct these things out of mostly thin air, but sometimes a little bit more than thin air. But I know there's a thought going around that Marcion's gospel is actually like a proto gospel that more closely approximates something even earlier than
and that would be
like
interesting.
Matthew.
But I thought by that point we already had like people talking about like the 4 gospels by the time that Marcion.
Oh, yes, absolutely. But some have said, well, wait a minute, maybe Marcion had something that was even, much,
maybe, but it seems
older
just as plausible that he had his own like either he had picked one of the 4 or that he had just written his own like harmony.
It sure does. And this is where, you enter dangerous territory in considering that we don't have anything from Marcion, really. So like I said, scholars have to go, what if it looked like this?
Yeah. And my thing is like, okay, maybe, yeah. Well, what if it didn't?
Yeah. But what if?
We have a couple super chats. The Power of Nuh-uh for 200 Argentinian peso says, Bible scholars are a Christian apologist of kryptonite. Also, don't be a broken monitor. Like and share instead. Yes, please do like and share. Then Fred Harvey for $10 redo says, change the channel name to Kip and the Dino graphic.
I approve.
I still say that really what we should do is we should just change the name of Windsor to Kipville.
I think, why not both? You don't have to choose one.
Branding is why. I have some branding concerns. Dutch Tunicate Official for $2 says, YouTube says Kip is a swear. Oh my goodness, Kip, what have you done?
I don't know.
Why would you do this to me?
So it's Kip, really?
I don't know. That could just be a lie. Ben Thick Tunicate for £10 says, completely off topic, but I watched The Nightmare Before Christmas last night. Excellent. Love the film, but feel like Tarantino took over when we find the Oogie Boogie has a foot king.
Last night.
No comments. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say last night I watched the second episode of Welcome to Derry. So, and I like it. I think it's good.
I had a professor from the Republic of Ireland when I was in college, and she was very surprised that there was a Derry and a Londonderry in New Hampshire, because over in Ireland, that's the same city, and which one you call it depends on whether you're a Republican or a Loyalist.
Oh.
And people have been killed over what you call that particular city. And she was like, yeah, but then I come to the United States and you guys were just like, hey, what if we just did both? And apparently that's just
fine.
We're
not involved in your petty squabbles.
Yeah, even the Irish immigrants, who are, the reason that those names exist is because of people from Ireland showing up. Yeah, she was pleasantly surprised that we managed to have a dairy and a Londonderry, and that no one seemed to find that odd. So good job, America.
Is Vish really quiet?
Not for me.
To everyone.
You could turn her up on your end.
That's true. That's what I can.
Tad is mad for $5 says, ask your local Catholic church, otherwise you may end up in a Marcionite church. Caveat emptor with a Godzilla. Yeah, you never know. You might accidentally stumble into a Marcionite church. In fact, actually, Marcion Christianity did really well for several centuries after Marcion was formally declared a heretic, and it did really well in northern and Western Europe. It took a very long time for the Imperial Church to displace Marcion Christianity from a lot of the sort of frontiers of the empire in Europe. So,
I don't think I like that Rebecca Raven.
What did Rebecca Raven do?
So she points out that ex-Prince Andrew is Andrew Mountbatten Kipville.
No. We're not changing his name. The whole point of changing the name of Windsor is so that it doesn't have to be associated with any of them.
Right? Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're not changing the name of the Windsors. They're the problem.
They are the problem.
Well, they're a problem. I'll say that. There are many other problems that are not the Windsor's fault. But there are also many that are the Windsor's faults. So, Goop23 for $2 says AIG is a bag of gifts. Oh,
I do not approve. That's
Poor
just
Kip.
That's just rude.
Metageeky Platypus Librarian
is.
for $5 says, look in chat for Patreon membership link. It's still unclaimed from Wednesday, and AIG is a sack of sessile tunicates. Wow. That is a horrible insult to sessile tunicates. I do not accept this. But also, there's 4 trans pride flags, and yes, trans rights are indeed human rights. Sapphire Rip Names says, Dapper emoji, Vish emoji, elusive Kip emoji, which doesn't exist. Yeah, from the future. Thank you very much. Alright, so we are, I think, gonna hit play pretty soon, because I think we've covered the super chats, and I don't know that we have anything else. Oh, there is one last thing. You guys probably know Roshna if you're here in this chat, and Roshna is, she has a fundraiser on GoFundMe. It is the pinned chat here, so, yeah, she was unfortunately let go from a job due to her disability because America, largely, and so is now...
I'm sorry, you said due to the disability?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we just don't care about the law anymore. I got it.
Yeah. So, look, I'm not a lawyer, so I have no idea if anything's going on that front or what any chances would be on that front. But as a result, she is now getting money by doing things like looking for security vulnerabilities in iOS devices and getting bounties for finding them, which she's quite good at as far as I can tell. But the payments for those are very irregular and up and down all the time. So right now, for this month, she has been in a bind where she does not have enough to get all of her bills and groceries and rent. So there's a fundraiser. Right now, we're at 81%. It's $4,000 that have already been raised. So thank you so much, because I'm quite confident that a large portion of those have come from my audience. So yeah, if you have a few dollars to spare, toss them towards Roshna. She has been a big part of this community, and you know, she's one of the people we try to make sure has a membership even when it lapses, even if she's not the one who has to pay for it. And yeah, all right, we got to think at least one more two more super chats. The Power of Nuh-uh for 100 Argentinian pesos says, running to make Kip a curse word in all of my conlangs. Nice.
Good.
Tad is mad for $2 says, Vish, laws don't exist in the former United States. That's true.
They don't if you're rich.
Yeah. Which means they don't exist, ultimately. What does exist is enforcement against the poor.
Right. Somebody pointed this out to me, and I hadn't thought this through, but the current government shutdown is just it's just a thing that the White House is fine with.
Not quite.
In perpetuity.
No, not really, because the White House did just declare that they wanted the Republicans to rescind the procedural filibuster in the Senate, which would then force a vote on the budget, and which would actually probably reopen the government without the renewal of the ACA subsidies, which is the sticking point for the Democrats. So
Wow.
technically, no, the White House is not okay with it. But unless the Republicans get together to get rid of the Senate rule that allows for the procedural filibuster, then there's nothing that the White House can really do about it. And the thing is that most of the Republicans, I don't know about most, but not enough Republicans want to get rid of the filibuster because they like it, because they're frequently in the minority historically in the Senate.
Yeah.
Which means that without the filibuster, it would be much easier for the Democrats to get bills passed that the Republicans don't want them to pass. So it's the Senate and the House Republicans, really, more than the White House.
I'm just a Canadian, and, I have a limited understanding of how things work down there, but oh my God.
They don't work.
That's
literally,
who thought this system was a good idea?
This shutdown has directly affected me because I'm currently on CalFresh, which is our fancy name for SNAP. So my food budget is being directly impacted by these chuck fucks. So, yeah, I'm not happy.
I'm also not sure if I'm going to have any health insurance next year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I felt that my premiums would be going up by several $100s.
Yep.
So that's great.
God,
that's cool.
Like it just this kind of shit just makes me physically ill.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel sick. Like I just.
So hey, if I have a heart attack or something, there will almost certainly be another GoFundMe.
Boy.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm gonna hit play.
And when a person trusts in him
being Jesus, I believe in this case.
Jesus, correct. Yes.
And cries out to him, "Lord, rescue me, a lowly sinner." He rescues us, and at that moment, he gives us a brand new life inside.
But just inside.
See, this is something I've talked about a few times. And it's something I really think that evangelicals really need to examine for themselves, which is this idea that, like, the Christian story is for a Christian, is supposed to go like this. I was a horrible, dirty sinner. Then I put my faith in Jesus, said the sinner's prayer, and suddenly I was a new person, and go forth, right? And here's the thing, look, I am not going to sit here and tell you that becoming dedicated to a religion cannot be a thing that changes your behavior, in many cases in a good way, right?
100%.
It's absolutely the
does
case.
Often.
However,
yes.
What this being the default narrative for the experience of what it means to be a Christian does is it takes people who were raised in the religion and gives them additional trauma and anxiety about not having had such a conversion experience. And that's not
Oh my
okay.
God. Yes. Because I was such a normie growing up, right? That this was a constant source of anxiety for me. In fact, when I was just out of high school, the first thing I did when I got out of high school was I went to, I mean, you can't even really call it a Bible college. It was like a discipleship training center out in New Zealand. And the only reason I went was to extend my snowboarding season into the Canadian summer. So I had like 17 straight months of snowboarding, which was pretty incredible. But the strong focus while I was there was literally crafting an acceptable testimony.
Yeah.
Because that was the most important thing. So, and the hardest work was for the normies like me to find enough diabolical shit in, my own history in order to make it acceptable.
Yeah. It's like, how wretched can you be if you're 11?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yes,
This is
right?
This is actually something that I think some other parts of Christianity do better, right? Like, you're not going to get too many people who are raised Catholic who are like, am I actually really a Catholic? It's like, yeah, you are. You were baptized. You went to First Communion. You did your confirmation.
Your confirmation.
You're done.
Yeah, you literally are.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it takes. You're good. You're in. And like, Same thing for most other like non-evangelical groups. Like this is basically the same process if you're Anglican. It's a similar but somewhat different process if you're like Eastern Orthodox. They've already got this whole thing where like, okay, people who are born and raised as part of this group, here is the process that you go through, and you don't have to worry about whether or not you're actually a Catholic or Orthodox or Anglican or whatever. Of course you are. You went through all the initiation rituals, you're still attending, you're good. And so evangelicals, what I'm trying to say is not like, hey, you need to like just completely change your entire theology, but you need to make a way to tell people who were raised as evangelicals that they do not need an abrupt, like dramatic conversion story where they can give this testimony about what wretched, horrible people they were beforehand, when they've just always grown up believing in your religion.
Those are the identity, what is it, credibility enhancing displays.
Look, I think Christianity as a whole has figured out ways to put in credibility enhancing displays for people who were raised in that religion without needing them to feel like they had to join the religion as outsiders in order to belong to the religion in the first place. There's a thing they could do. Most of the rest of Christianity has figured out before they even existed. So this is a problem they invented for themselves. Ventelli 1998 for $5 says AIG is a
Regis super chat.
Jeez. AIG is a sack of the current U.S. government unless they are monitoring the stream. Then look over there, it runs away. Nice, thank you.
Pocket sand.
So this is like this feeds into and I this is a lot of what Vish is getting at too. But then there's a new anxiety, not just there's a social anxiety that gets created out of this too, because of how much credit and attention people receive in these contexts for broadcasting their trauma and for having experienced this kind of trauma, to the point where like you and they get lionized for that too, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, the more dramatic your turnaround, the more clout you get.
Oh my God, what an incredible person you are for,
it's like,
having endured.
I was literally the worst person alive, but
the
worse you were before becoming a Christian, that makes Jesus even cooler. So
yeah, and I think that's why, I mean, there was that's a big part of why there's even a market for Ted Bundy or what's his name, the other guy from Wisconsin, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh,
what is it with Wisconsin?
What was he in?
Yeah, Wisconsin, man, Wisconsin, y'all got some of the worst ones.
Serial killer factory out there.
Yeah, holy shit.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, there was I remember.
And I will say this thing about Bundy is that he was such a con artist.
Yeah.
That he just strung James Dobson's gullible ass along. James
ever?
Dobson swallowed every single thing. Hook, line, and sinker. Like, oh yeah, it was definitely the BDSM porn.
What was
right,
was
man.
that what was that was early 90s, wasn't it? When I bought it too.
Yeah, I did too. I was shown a Ted Bundy tape as in church.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God.
Why would he lie?
Honestly,
I don't remember my reaction.
I think the thought crossed my mind. Like, it just seemed, I was so, it just.
I mean, look, is it impossible that Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer found religion and then did what they could to reform themselves while incarcerated? I don't know. It's possible. Do I think it happened?
The only jailhouse conversion that I personally am convinced by is Son of Sam.
Maybe. We got a couple super chats here. Metageeky Platypus Librarian for $5 says, every initiation ceremony, especially religious ones, should end with conferring of the secret decoder ring. Sorry, should end is probably what you mean there. Should end with the conferring of the secret decoder ring. Remember to drink your Ovaltine lattes. It would be much cooler if they all had a decoder ring.
When you convert to Judaism, you get access to the secret space laser codes.
Oh, nice. you also get a bag of gold to bury somewhere?
Yeah, we get a bag of Jew gold.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So,
Let's see.
There's
Yes,
another
kid?
one.
Oh, okay. Tad is
No,
Matt for
what's your
$5 says,
super chat?
despite being an atheist since I was 13, I'm still officially an Episcopalian. I can't deal with Brian Thomas right now. Good luck, y'all. Hey, that's fine.
But we're not really, are we? We're sitting here not dealing.
I mean, I'm gonna hit play pretty
As long
soon.
as people
probably.
are super chatting.
Yeah.
I guess so, right? But I was shit. I had a point, and now
The Flurfament
I think I
supervisor
lost it, and I'm really annoyed.
says the penitent criminal is one of the oldest cons.
Oh,
yeah, this is one of those things because
yes.
Bundy was trying to play people in order to delay his execution. He kept
Mhm.
saying, "Oh, there's more information about more victims, and I'll totally give it to
Mhm.
you if you just let me live a little longer." And they're like, "Nah, you've already ran out of that." Dahmer got murdered too fast for anybody to really tell. But Son of Sam, his whole thing, he got life. He's not getting out, so he doesn't
Yeah.
really have the same incentive to
incentive.
lie.
Yeah.
And all of his letters and publications and journal posts and stuff, they remain consistent after 30, 40 years. So
Seems
if it's a con, it's the
reasonable then, yeah.
longest con I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's a long con,
Right.
and
There's
like
no payoff.
well, yeah, exactly.
No,
There's no payoff.
I do get.
Yeah.
This is where I get, and maybe I am just a cynical asshole.
Well, you definitely
but
are that.
I definitely am that. So, but the first place I go every time is the incredulity of it. So a guy like, and the guy that always comes to mind is David Wood, Christian apologist, diagnosed psychopath.
I'm familiar.
Who insists that Jesus is the secret ingredient that's holding him back from just serial murdering everyone on earth. And that's me, right? I am like, you're either lying about your diagnosis or exaggerating it, or you're not sincere. And this is really just a grift to ensure that you can stay out and about with regular people.
There's one thing that you
probably
learn
shouldn't say
very
regular
quickly
people.
about serial murderers. If they want to kill, they will make a way. They do not.
No, fish. Jesus.
Jesus said no.
Yeah, it's a miraculous healing.
I guess Jesus's power varies by person because BTK was a deacon at his church.
Right. But see, he didn't really believe there. Bitch. That's
right.
The
he was not a real Christian.
Right.
So
David Wood
of course.
Yeah. I actually did watch
but only by virtue of the fact that he hasn't done anything to ruin Christianity's PR. So the second he does that, he will suddenly not be a real Christian because you can't ruin the PR.
No.
I did, out of like morbid curiosity, once watch David Wood argue in a debate for the historicity of Muhammad. That was weird.
Oh, yeah. My
well,
God.
I also suspect that that's motivated by the fact that if someone can say Muhammad wasn't real, then they're going to say that Jesus wasn't real, and he can't have that. So he kind of feels like he.
Well, no, because the person who was
watching the debate, if it was the same debate you watched,
it was Robert Spencer versus David Wood.
Yes, yes, and the reason why is so that he could just lean right in to
Islamophobia.
Yes, that's it.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, it was a vehicle for his Islamophobia.
Yeah, so Robert Spencer
was a real person
who
committed
the stupidest argument for the existence of Muhammad was the vehicle for his Islamophobia. Yes.
Okay.
Basically,
and it was the stupidest argument for the existence of Muhammad.
The argument basically boiled down to, look at how bad Muhammad was. No one that evil could be fake.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Humans don't invent villains ever. And they don't invent flawed characters ever.
And Robert Spencer's goal was definitely not to disprove Jesus because he himself is a Maronite Catholic.
Also a piece of shit.
Well, yeah.
So
Yeah.
But he's not trying to
was-
do the whole like edgelord atheist. Like, I don't think either of them existed because he is a Maronite Catholic. He believes Jesus existed.
And yes, Roshana, people do dispute Muhammad, actually.
Yeah, it's a
The
weird.
reasons are
Somewhat fringe.
about as dumb as the Jesus mythicists, but
Yeah.
it's like,
Look, the
okay.
thing is, in both cases, the most likely explanation is that there's a guy behind this movement. Like, it is by far the simplest explanation. Now, did Muhammad actually take a night journey to Jerusalem and split the moon and whatnot? No, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, just because that there's a literal guy who these legends are based on doesn't mean that every single bit of the legends are true.
Actually, to be fair, even reading the story of the night journey, even then it doesn't really seem like he actually did it. Because, like, when asked for evidence, he was like, well, I went to Jerusalem. And we're like, oh, what's Jerusalem like? And he's like, it had
How else
tall
could I get here?
buildings. It had tall buildings. And they're like, well, that sounds like Jerusalem to me. I was like, guys, what is happening right now? I'm going to hit play.
No other places have tall buildings like that.
No, only Jerusalem. Jerusalem was the only place with tall buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Is supernaturally as well. So the Bible itself is supernatural. So it's this combination.
Like, that look that she had was just her eyes vacant.
Well, as we've
So
established, we're pretty sure she does not want to be here.
No, not
she
at
ain't
all.
sitting there. She's
Yeah.
somewhere else.
I can't blame her.
Not at all.
Yeah.
By the way, Roshana, so I'll just say this: people, yes, people dispute the historical existence of Muhammad, but within like actual serious people, it's taking even less seriously than people who dispute the existence of Jesus. So
Yeah.
yeah.
The best argument that I've heard against the existence of Muhammad is that, like, early Arab empires didn't print coinage with his name. I'm like, okay,
Okay.
great.
So,
I don't, like... And then also,
You got
like,
me.
it doesn't come up much in the Dome of the Rock, which is one of the earliest, like, significant pieces of monumental architecture from any Islamic state. Like, okay. You know what I find more interesting about the Dome of the Rock? That it's covered in Quranic verses, but some of them differ from the standard Quran that you're going to see around the world printed today. I find that interesting
woo!
because
Yeah.
that means that maybe there's another layer of text here that is preserved only in this one location, and that maybe that could tell us something about the textual history of the Quran, which is unfortunately very hard to figure out because one guy decided to collect basically every Quran in the world and burn them and then replace them with copies of his own, which means we don't really have a textual history for the Quran before that point, with very few exceptions. So that I find interesting. The fact that Muhammad doesn't come up much. Well, you know where else Muhammad doesn't come up much? In the Quran. But he does. But if you're just going to copy out Quranic verses that you think are cool, chances are you could copy out a whole lot of them and just not happen across any of the times that Muhammad is mentioned by name, which again, doesn't happen much. Because usually what's happening is that the conceit is either that it's God talking to him, or it's a sermon he's supposed to give that was delivered by God. And generally, when people talk to you, they don't just constantly say your name. And when they give you a speech to read, they also don't usually put your name in it too much. So, yeah, because I've also heard that it's like, well, Muhammad's barely mentioned in the Quran. Like, why would he be? Do you think most people just constantly mention themselves? Like, Kip, how many times in the body of the text of your most recent book that you haven't written does your name appear?
My actual name.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah. That probably means that Kip doesn't exist.
I mean, it's you can see it on the cover.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
just
but that's only
that's,
once.
that's what the publisher wants people to think as the author.
Actually, I think it's here too. There it is.
Yeah, but that's just because the
And
publisher wants people to think that someone named Kip Davis wrote the book. Really, if Kip Davis
on
had
the
really
copyright page.
Well, yeah, but if
That's
Kip Davis had actually written it, his name would be in the text more.
Probably.
Yeah, that's definitely how books work. All right, I'm gonna hit play before I get more angry at stupid Muhammad mythicism bullshit.
It's almost like a co-authorship of the Holy Spirit and human writers. So I think that's
Oh
what
my
happened.
god.
And
is
the
he
reason we're
inspiring it, or is he co-writing it? Or is God writing it?
Well, part of the
Pick a
problem is that
lane.
inspiration
That's
is
the
not
same
well defined.
thing. It's
Yeah.
I know.
So, like, what does it mean to be inspired?
It's infallible. It's infallible and inspired when there's no contradictions. But if there's a contradiction, it's just because a human helped co-author it. Humans are fallible.
Oh no! See, he's not going to accept that there are any contradictions. This whole section is about the fact that about the alleged fact that there are no contradictions in the Bible, which isn't a fact. Oh, also, I forgot to tell everyone, we're not doing Godzilla today because I do not want to try to figure out monitors, and if we're gonna go an extra hour today, I'm gonna be tired, and like we're just not gonna do it. Sorry. I know it's now 2 days or 2 different times in a row. Whatever.
Confident that happened not only is because the Bible claims that.
The Bible doesn't claim that, though.
According to the verse you just quoted.
Yeah, there's one verse that you pretend is what that means, but the Bible doesn't actually claim that. The thing is, the people writing the books of the Bible are all writing independently of one another, although sometimes in conversation with other bits, right? Like, obviously, a lot of the New Testament...
The Holy Spirit's talking to all of them.
Sure,
Gosh.
I guess.
Sorry.
What most of them don't do in the body of their text that they're writing is say anything about this being from God. There are some exceptions, right? Like in Revelation, the author will say John just because that's how the author identifies themselves. It's like, I had a vision and it was from God and here's what I saw. Like, okay, sure. That's some kind of claim of inspiration, right? But other than that, and maybe I suppose like when prophets are prophesying in the text, there isn't even the claim that the text is from God. Metageeky Platypus Librarian for $2 says, for vanity, do a running footer with your name.
Sapphire, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just put Sapphire Rip R.I.P. Well, it sucks so bad that I don't know.
It's Rip names.
The actual name. Oh, I know, but it's anyways. It says bizarrely, Kip didn't begin his book with "Hello, my name is Dr. Kip Davis."
Yeah, why is that?
Suspicious.
So how do you know I didn't?
Well, presumably.
I mean, I guess I could, but yes, yeah. Presumably it means she's read the book. But,
yeah, that's what I was going to go with.
But maybe.
Yeah. The real question is, why didn't you?
Maybe I should. I'll do it next time.
Okay. And next time you don't write a book?
Because I'm probably going to do this again. Yeah, I'm probably going to do this not writing thing again.
Okay. Are you going to also record it again?
If I ever get finished with the recording of the current book. I'm about 80% through now, by the way.
Much like the third game of the World Series, Kip will continually be recording audio.
It feels like...
hey, did the Blue Jays win the World Series last night?
It's not over yet.
Is it last night? Oh,
so it's only game 3. They need 3.
Okay.
They need to win. Was 4 times?
No. Somebody said it was like 3-2, wasn't it?
Well,
no.
last night happened, and the Dodgers won, so now they're tied at 3.
So now it's okay. So
the next game is
tonight.
Is it?
Yeah, tonight is the last one. Yes.
Is it in LA or is it in Toronto?
I don't remember.
You heard how I pronounced it correctly, right?
They should just split the difference and do it in Cheyenne.
Yeah.
So that way no one can show up.
All
right, I'm gonna hit play.
Quoted.
Dodgers and 7.
But the Bible proves it through fulfilled prophecies, through internal consistency that we're talking about now. So,
okay.
Of course it does. Although we did already talk about that, so I don't really want to drag all that back out. Olivia Williams for 2 Beaver Bucks says, "Will it be published before Winds of Winter?" Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Kip's audiobook reminds me of Fusion Power. Don't worry, guys. We're close. We'll get there. It's been 30 years that you've been telling me this. I stopped believing you.
It's been since the beginning of September. I don't think it's that bad that it's been only a solid 2 months.
Okay, but here's something that you're forgetting.
It's not terrible, really.
You're forgetting something. The past, 6 years have all been the same year, and also, 40 years. All at the same time, depending on how I look at it. So, for me, you saying it's only been September, you might as well have told me it's only been since 1986. It doesn't really make a difference.
Problem.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not saying it's not a me problem, but that's still how it is.
All right. Well, I'm going to SBL on the 21st of it's November.
It is. It's
You
November 1st.
guys. So no, yeah,
Happy
I'm
All
going to
Saints Day to
SBL.
all the Western Christians out there.
Yes, indeed.
I'm very upset that I'm probably not going to SBL.
I know. We're all
Sorry.
very upset, Vish. But
They should just move SBL to LA.
To Vish's house.
Yeah.
That's
You can totally fit everyone in there.
Look, if people sponsored my trip, I would go because I have friends that live in Boston that I could probably crash with. But yeah, it's just the flight.
They should move it to Tucson.
It's the flight. I'm a little worried.
Well, in a few
about
years,
mine,
it'll be back in San Diego,
actually.
and I'll just take the train.
It goes back every few years to San Diego because seriously, I mean, why wouldn't you? Just
right.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I know there's a movement among my colleagues who are like, why don't we just do it in San Diego?
For real, I co-sign this.
Yeah.
Can we put it up for a vote?
I wouldn't mind.
I'm still an active member. Let's go.
Bother me that much, honestly. I think they don't do it because they know that it would
it's gonna win in a landslide.
It would yes, absolutely. Yeah.
By the way, we are 25% of the way to getting an extra hour. So there you go.
Well, it feels okay.
But you see the same theme. You see the same attributes of God. It's the same God we're talking about.
Okay, except that in some parts of the Bible, God is omniscient. In other parts, he's surprised and regrets his actions. In some parts, he can't lie. In other parts, he does lie. Like, in some parts, he seems to have a body. In other parts, he seems not to. Like, it's not actually the case.
I just don't understand it, Dapper.
But also, that they all have the same themes is because they were all selected to be read in church because they had the same themes. That was the reason that they were used liturgically, was because the books had the same themes. How are you getting the causality backwards, my guy? Come on. It wasn't like the Bible was handed down in the 1st century by God on clouds, and then all the bishops were like, oh yeah, that's cool. Thanks, God. Oh wow, look how many of the themes are the same across all these texts. That's handy. That's not what happened. Oh, that's at least as stupid as when people are like, well, the canon was decided at the Council of Nicaea when they piled a bunch of books on a table. None of those things.
Stupid. Yeah.
And like, it's not that hard to figure out the history of the canonization.
Just as dumb.
Yeah. Like,
yes.
If you go to any Bible school, or I learned about how, like, the process of the development of the canon in Catholic school.
Bible school. But
okay, well, any of the ones I've ever encountered.
The vast majority.
Yeah, most of them.
Of Bible schools, yes.
Like, the development of the canon is not like a closely held secret among Christians. It's really not. They're pretty open about it when you go to talk to even believing Christian scholars about how the Bible works, how it developed. Like, none of them are going to be like, oh yeah, well, God one day told, the Bishop of Alexandria, these are the books. And ever since then, no.
If that had happened, then the canon would be enormous. Because, Alexandria. So.
Yes. Although, by the time there was a bishop, I guess the first library of Alexandria hadn't burned down at that point. I don't know, whatever.
You see the same reference points throughout all these different authors, all these different books, all these different genres, and the authors had all these different vocations.
Well, I mean, if you're being very selective, yes. But if you're actually taking into consideration, taking seriously the entire damn book, like in all its constituent parts, much less yes, and much more, that's really interesting. So, honestly, I just don't feel like Brian really fucking loves the Bible. I'm getting that feeling that he doesn't.
The thing is, I think what he loves is his internally mostly made up version of what the Bible is, and not the actual texts themselves.
Yeah.
Because clearly he has dedicated his entire life to something. And when you ask him, he would say it is the faith revealed in the Bible. Like, and I don't think he's lying when he says that. What I think is happening is he's simply wrong about so much about what the Bible is at a very basic level.
So much. Yeah, so much.
And not even just what the Bible is at a basic level, but like even just the basic history of how we came to have this situation where many people now own a bound volume of texts that says on the top, on the front of it, the Holy Bible. I don't think he has any grasp on how it is that we now live in that world, where that is a thing that you can just go buy at the store, and it's going to have pretty much the same books, mostly wherever you buy it, and mostly whichever translation. With some caveats that, like, yeah, like there might be a section with Catholic Bibles that have the Apocrypha printed in a separate section or scattered throughout or something like that. Or if you're in a place with a particularly large amount of like Eastern European immigrants, you might be able to find a Bible printed by like an Eastern Orthodox group or something. But like, yeah, for the most part, when you pick up a Bible from the store, it's going to be the 66 book Protestant canon. And I don't think that he has any historical understanding of how we got to this place. Let's see, Midikiki Platypus Librarian for $5 says, each book of the Bible had a big release party at the latest chapters in Barnes & Noble store. Everyone dressed up as their favorite characters and drank punch.
Yes.
You know, when I was a kid, my church tried to do a Bible character Halloween thing to try to counter the secular version of Halloween.
My God,
But the
Maya
problem
was
is-
telling me about stuff like this that happens.
Yeah, the problem is,
the other day.
how do you dress up as different Bible characters
They-
in a
I
way
mean,
that's
they all look the
differentiable?
same,
Yeah,
don't
they're all the same. You dress in a robe and you
It's like
put on a
3
fake
colors.
beard
What I
if
was-
you're doing a guy.
Hang on. What I was gonna say is it's funny to me that Halloween, you know, All Hallows Eve,
Yeah.
is a Christian holiday
It is.
that Protestants are trying to take back for Christianity.
Well, the thing is, it's the wrong kind of Christianity. That's what you're forgetting.
Of course.
Yeah, it's
So we
a
don't
weird
have
Catholic.
trick or treat. We have trunk or treat. And we don't dress up as like evil devil characters. We dress up as like angels and Bible characters and cartoons.
I mean, that
Get real.
pretty much. Yeah, Ugly German
Sad
Truth
that nobody
points out
takes the
correctly.
trick part seriously anymore.
Well, that's because most of the tricks are illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Ugly German Truth does point out correctly that Catholic Bibles don't have an apocrypha. It's deuterocanon. It's a deuterocanon. Yeah, that's true. They're the deuterocanonical books. And in Eastern Bibles, they're just part of the Bible. There's no separate designation.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're just flipping through the Bible, you get to Judith, and that's fine.
And I gotta go back and take a look now, but I'm pretty sure that's how it was treated in Codex Sinaiticus.
I think you're right. Actually,
So-
so Codex Sinaiticus is from the Sinai Peninsula. It's from St. Catherine's Monastery. And they also have a letter purported to have been handwritten by the Prophet Muhammad himself,
oh,
granting them
Cool.
protection.
wow.
Yeah.
How legit is that?
It's incredibly not legit. It's an obvious
Oh, okay.
forgery. But enough various like governments have taken it seriously enough that the monastery itself has actually
Wild,
remained
eh?
largely unmolested throughout its history. So, I mean, good job to whoever forged that, because you did a bang up
Mhm.
job.
They were thinking ahead.
Yeah, seriously. It's been working for like over 1,000 years.
Oh, I forgot to explain trunk or treat. It's where you're basically tailgating at the church.
Yeah. And people's car trunks are full of candy that you go around and you collect the candy. And I mean, look, I can see the impulse for this even from a non-religious standpoint, where you're like, okay, I'm not super comfortable with my kids going around to a bunch of strangers' doors and knocking on the doors or ringing those doorbells and just getting random crap from whoever is in there. Whereas I know the people from my church and I trust them. I get that impulse. I think it's silly.
It's not even about that for me. It's just silly to me that I'm like, look, just celebrate Halloween. I don't give a crap what you're calling it. The
Yeah.
same thing with Fall Festival. We can't call it Halloween. That's evil and bad. Just call it. I don't give a fuck what you call it. You're just celebrating it.
Yeah.
Like, if everyone started saying, oh, we're just going to start celebrating the winter holiday because they didn't want to say the word Christmas.
That's what they're accusing everyone of doing. You know that, right?
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Okay. They're inversely paranoid about Christmas. Like their fears about those two holidays are completely the opposite, and it's weird to me, given that
I
they're
know,
both
it's
Christian
hilarious.
holidays.
They're so persecuted, but also they're the majority. So
Yeah.
You know, you fishermen and shepherds and, you know, priests and kings and all kinds of different walks of life. And
We
why
actually
would you dress
haven't.
up as a priest?
No, he's talking about people who wrote the Bible. I was going to say, I don't think we actually have any evidence that any of it was actually written by a king, do we?
Zero
Uh,
evidence.
I mean, some of the Psalms are
And
attributed
why,
to David,
honestly,
but like,
why would kings be writing
they got hobbies.
in the they got more important shit to do.
All right, Kip, I don't know if you know this, but the Emperor of Japan is a world-famous biochemist. He's got a hobby. He has published dozens of well-regarded papers in the field of biochemistry.
For real?
I'm not kidding, yeah.
That's awesome.
He's a world-famous biochemist. He's highly regarded as a biochemist.
That's so cool.
Sometimes monarchs have hobbies. I mean, it's not like he's doing a whole lot of ruling of Japan.
Yeah.
No,
Jeez.
true, right? I was wrong. It's not Sinaiticus, it's Vaticanus.
Oh, well, I think it's true of both, but like,
but Sinaiticus, I was just looking at the manuscript and it doesn't look. I could have sworn there's a contents page, but it looks like it's too.
I know it contains a Shepherd of Hermas.
It certainly
DM
does.
Wing is saying, isn't there a book of kings? Yeah, it's a book of kings, not a book by kings.
That's
by kings.
The only thing I can think of in the Bible that's even purported to be by a king is the Psalms that are attributed to David. And I guess you could say like Ecclesiastes, the Song of Solomon.
To Solomon,
Proverbs.
Proverbs. The Song of Songs that are Solomon. That is Solomon's.
But like, we don't have any good reasons.
Erotica.
Yeah. But we don't have any like actual evidence that those are written by those characters, because those characters are not in evidence outside of the stories about them in the Bible.
I mean, this is part of the general problem of biblical authorship, right? Is just that so much of it is anonymous. And even in those places where authors are identified and scholars are happy to accept that, you know,
like some of the Pauline epistles.
So, sure. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to. Usually I'm just thinking about the Hebrew Bible, because for me that's. I mean, one thing that my Dr. Fodder taught me, and it's a lesson I took to heart, is that I should just not read the New Testament because it's dumb. So I don't. But you know, so anyways, like I'm thinking of places like the book of Isaiah, which is one that I know, or the book of Jeremiah. You know, so much of that stuff is still third person literature. First person sections are usually introduced in the third person, or they're also anonymized to the point where, well, it seems like this is something that Jeremiah might probably have said. Probably.
DM Wing has a pretty good point here, though. DM Wing says, but if Timothy wrote 2 books of your Bible, surely Kings was written by kings. And I mean...
Timothy, yes.
Yeah. Heather Kuhn, who's been a member for 19 months and is at the amulet level, says, maybe it's like Hindu deities. Each biblical figure has a distinguishing item he carries. Example, Joshua has a shofar. So that actually does occur in like some aspects of Christian art, where you'll get different saints, including Old Testament figures, who are characterized by what they're holding.
You'll see Moses with tablets.
Yeah. One that's not in the Bible, but that's very, very distinctive is icons or statues of St. George usually have him carrying 3 golden balls. And those are symbolic of the dowries that he basically is said to have donated to a cobbler's daughters when they reached adulthood because apparently the cobbler didn't have dowries for them and was worried that they would have to go be prostitutes. So every night, according to the legend, before one of the daughters came of age, St. George would take some of the money from his inheritance and drop it through the cobbler's window into a boot. And then that's why on St. Nicholas Day, kids in places like Russia leave out boots under their beds so their parents can fill them with candies. Which is also where the stocking comes from for Christmas stockings.
I don't know how much I
Thanks,
want
slobs.
to eat candy that was in my boots.
I mean, they're wrapped.
I guess. Yeah.
They're not
that's
just
fair.
putting direct sugar in there, because that would also ruin the boot.
By the way, there's a little girl who lives in our basement. She's adorable. But she gave me 5 candies yesterday.
Is there a hostage in your
Out of
basement?
her stash. No.
Are you
There's
sure?
There is a tenant in my basement.
Okay.
This is
Is
different.
that what you're calling it?
Okay. And this person is free to leave
What it's called.
at any time?
Yes. She leaves. She's not here now, actually. I don't think.
All right, so I don't need to get the RCMP involved?
No.
Okay.
They probably wouldn't take you seriously anyways.
They might.
I don't think so. You're a dinosaur
They
from
don't have to know
Arizona.
that. Look, I will have you know, the police from other countries do sometimes, actually frequently, take seriously reports of crimes coming from other countries where the crime takes place in the
Yeah, but-
country that they have jurisdiction.
Not
As-
from you, though.
Well, we don't know that. I've never called the RCMP. I've never had cause to.
doubts, very much.
Look, I do know that the RCMP has taken seriously calls from Americans before.
Not dinosaurs.
They don't have to know I'm a dinosaur.
It's just so obvious, dude.
Sure, I'm gonna hit play.
And yet, they're all pointing to the same theme, and that is, and you can read them. I mean, think about
Just one. That's it. There's
here's
just
an early-
one theme.
One theme in the Bible.
One theme.
And you know that he's gonna say the theme is Jesus, right?
It always is, isn't it?
I mean, in reality,
The answers to all the
Go ahead.
questions.
Hang on a sec. Hang on. Tea Time Tea for $5 says, "How are we feeling about Nano Tyrannus news?"
So I am feeling somewhat surprised. I was not expecting the current news, and I listened to the not entirely public announcement of this. And at first, when I heard that there was a paper coming saying that Nano Tyrannus was was once again a valid genus, I was skeptical. I was like, I don't know, but listening to the arguments they gave, I actually do find them fairly compelling. I'm going to wait to see what the response is. But if everything that they said in the announcement turns out to be reflected in the paper and is also accurate, then I think that, yeah, Nano Tyrannus probably is a valid genus. Of course, it's a big if.
Anything.
So there was a fossil pulled out of the ground in, I believe it was in Hell Creek, although if I'm not wrong about that, please someone correct me. And had 2 very well-preserved dinosaurs, one of which was a small-bodied theropod. And it turns out that it was a nearly complete skeleton that's 3D, which is not always the case. Many skeletons are actually preserved flattened, but this one seems to have actually been, full 3D.
That's cool. Yeah.
And when examining the skull, it looked like things like sinus locations and the shapes of the various bones and whatnot lined up most closely with another skull that was the holotype for Nanotyrannus, which has more recently been considered to be a junior synonym of Tyrannosaurus, with the Nanotyrannus skull representing a juvenile. But the fossil that they have in this newly described specimen seems to be an adult, based on what they said about the growth plates on the long bones, like the femur and humerus and whatnot. And it also could not reasonably have grown into a Tyrannosaurus. And also, its skull seems to match pretty closely with the former holotype for Nanotyrannus, which would now be the holotype once again, if this is decided to be a valid taxon. So I think one of the most compelling things also that it could not have reasonably grown into a Tyrannosaurus was that the arm of Nanotyrannus, despite being a much smaller animal, was itself larger than even a large Tyrannosaurus arm, which, generally speaking, in terms of like through your growth, body parts don't tend to shrink. They can stop growing and then get like proportionally smaller. They don't actually shrink. Like, when a baby is born, you think of it as having a big head, but it doesn't actually. Its head is smaller than an adult head. It's just that the head's going to grow more slowly than the rest of the body. So proportionally, the head will shrink. But if you were like, hey, this is a baby human, and the head was actually bigger than that of an adult human, that would be pretty hard to explain.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like Nanotyrannus is back, boys.
How big is Nanotyrannus?
It's so I don't have like the numbers in my head, but it's, if I remember correctly, it's like about the size of a large dog. It's not very big.
Cool. By the way, I'm out of coffee.
How dare! All right, we'll take a quick break. Oh, but wait. You know what? You go grab some coffee because I am going to give away a Vermintide Steam key while you do that. So here we go. So here is the deal. I'm going to be dropping a Vermintide Steam key in chat, and there are rules. And the rules are you just have to be fast, and if you get it or try to get it, and you either claim it or it says it's already claimed, you need to add me and tell me. You do not have to have super chatted. You don't need to be a channel member. You don't need to be a patron. You don't need to be anything. You just need to be quick. So again, this is Vermintide 1. It is a Warhammer fantasy set in the old world during the end times, and you are fighting your way through the hordes of the Skaven. So here we go. That is Vermintide. So yeah, please let me know if you get it. After this, we still have 4 more Steam keys to give away. Nanotyrannus was over 2 meters tall. All right, well, I was super wrong about that. I'll have to correct that when Kip gets back.
Oh, dang.
Look, I don't keep all the dinosaur sizes in my brain. I really don't. When I need to like figure out the size, I usually look it up. Because I can't keep track of all of them. There's some that I do. Like, for instance, I remember about how big Triceratops was because I consciously compare it to the size of one standard Vishanti.
Yes.
Because we were at the museum, you were quite impressed by the size of a Triceratops compared to the standard Vishanti size.
The skull of Triceratops, man, it just huge.
Yeah.
Very large.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Olivia Williams got it. Awesome. Well, congratulations. I hope you enjoy
Nice.
Vermintide. I had a lot. Look, I have it. I haven't played it in a very long time, but when I was actively playing it, I was playing it a lot, and it was a lot of fun. I had a really good time with it. So, all right, I'm going to hit play, and maybe now that Kip's gone, we'll actually get some video in. Yeah.
The theme, it starts popping up. Genesis 15, verse 6. And Abraham believed God, and he credited it to him as righteousness. So it's righteousness by faith. Guess what the New Testament talks about?
Righteousness by faith.
Over and over.
Over and over again.
But
yeah.
Okay. I mean, look,
All right, man.
it shouldn't really be surprised that people who had the Torah as part of their religious tradition would then go on to echo themes from that collection in their future writings that they did about their take on this religious tradition. Because you do have to remember that the earliest Christians didn't necessarily see themselves as part of a new religion. They thought of themselves as being within the previous traditions, and they were doing their own twist on this. So, like, of course there's echoes of these things. I don't think we need to have, like, supernatural causation to explain that people who were writing the New Testament took cues from the Old Testament. It's not, like, I don't know. I don't know what about that is supposed to demonstrate to me that this is a miracle.
But so it's the same God, and we know him through the same way, by grace through faith.
Mm-hmm.
And that's explicit in there in the New Testament. But
Weird, because that passage from Genesis didn't say anything about grace.
Nope.
But hey, what do I know? Let's see. Zerolon, who's been a member for 24 months, says, I joined late. I'd miss Did I miss a new young Earth creationist argument? Nope. Yeah, no, you didn't. They almost never have new arguments.
Yeah.
I did actually encounter a flat Earth argument I'd never heard before, which was
Really?
Yeah. So it was gravity is fake because if you take the mass of the Earth and multiply it by 10 meters per second, which is rounding the value of the surface gravity of the Earth, you get a number for the force that is way too high and we would all be crushed.
What?
If you take the mass of the Earth, as it's reported by the
I heard
Globies...
what you said.
Yep.
How is that supposed to indicate that the Earth is flat?
Because the force is too high, so gravity must be fake, therefore the Earth must be flat, because gravity is fake.
Well, I don't think that person's aware that if the Earth was flat, in order to keep you on the disk, gravity would have to increase as you go towards the edge. But
well, you're just because there is no gravity. Gravity is fake.
Okay.
And what's actually happening is density.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. And the way that we know that gravity...
You mean density, that thing that we measure using G in the equation?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Density is just M over V.
Am I thinking of buoyancy?
You are thinking of buoyancy,
That
yes.
uses... Well, that's explaining gravity anyway. Density and buoyancy, gosh.
Yeah,
Once
you add buoyancy, you do in fact need...
Yeah.
The biggest reason that it's obvious that you need some kind of force is because you need a vector for buoyancy. Because buoyancy is a force with a vector, whereas density isn't. And where does the vector for buoyancy come from? Well, it comes from gravity.
I'm never thinking about any of those things.
Kip, by the way, I was very incorrect. Nanotyrannus was about 2 meters tall.
Listen.
Oh.
Yes, I heard.
Okay.
These are great. I can
Good.
hear everything everywhere.
Well, then you know. All right, I'm gonna hit play.
But where does this grace come from? Where do we first see it?
Good question.
Genesis chapter 6. But Noah found grace in the eyes of God.
It's too bad he can't read Hebrew, or else he would understand the pun.
Well, didn't earn it.
Right? Do you want to explain that, Vish?
Hold on. He just said Noah didn't earn it.
Explain it.
It's pretty clear to me in the text that Noah, in fact, did earn it by being the one righteous guy, he and his family. I don't know what could be said to be earning it, if not that. But sorry, Kip, go ahead.
It pretty clearly said, like, he was upright.
Yeah.
That he was righteous. He was, like, the only one.
So part of the problem is that he's importing the, anti-works version of Christianity that he believes in into parts of the Bible that have absolutely no clue about any of that, where works are very much important.
Yeah, it's like you can't deserve it. You don't deserve it. You could never be good enough to deserve it, except for all these times it says they deserved it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. So.
Well, and I also want to point out that works are bad, not universal in Christianity. Most Christian groups not on board with this whole, like, no one can ever deserve anything, and you don't have to do any works. Don't worry about it. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the pun, as is common in Hebrew, the Hebrew Bible, they will do wordplay with people's names. So, in that case,
all the time,
Noah is spelled nun chet, and the word for grace or favor is chet nun, which is just Noah backwards.
Not fun.
So, yeah, Noah found Cain, and it's fun.
I'm just learning that the letter isn't Chet. Just I'm learning that just now. Yep. Wow. Not Chet.
This is one of those things that's like you constantly run into
what you should do?
Problems with people trying to transliterate a Semitic language.
They just don't know what any of the letters mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because how do you get across the sound using the Latin alphabet? It's going to be wildly inconsistent.
Always.
It's even inconsistent in languages that have that sound that use the Latin alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid Latin alphabet. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm going to be starting up a new Hebrew class in the new year, in January. You should probably take it.
Me?
You. Yeah.
So that I know not to say
Why
Chet.
not? Yes.
The why not is
There are
because
other
I
things
don't
you
know.
could learn as well.
Like what?
Like how
Verbs.
to read.
Like the difference
And
between the two
verbs.
different
Yeah.
kinds of
Verbs are fun.
Dagesh?
Yeah. Forte and Lindy.
I mean, yeah. So, but I mean, actually reading is fun.
Sometimes I read Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not good at it,
Sure you
but
do.
sometimes I do it.
Sure.
You don't even believe me.
Mm-mm.
Hey, Vish, remember that
And I
time?
mean, you would have a much easier time than some of the other students
Yeah, it's true.
because you
Oh,
already
yeah.
know Arabic.
Well, I know
Yes,
some
it would
Arabic.
be. It'd be pretty.
I also know some
but
Hebrew.
you know, you have yes, and I think you've got you probably got a solid enough grasp of the ways that Semitic languages work.
Yeah.
And it would be super easy. But
yeah. I am sure that if I took a Hebrew class, I would do fine.
Yes, the real fearmonger. This will be a Hebrew class for total beginners, for people who don't know the first goddamn thing.
But
about
will it be a Hebrew
Except that
class
it's a thing.
for ants?
No.
Okay.
Because they can't fit inside the building.
The
I
ants
can't fit
can't?
inside the building.
Oh.
I can't.
Well, then it is a
fit
Hebrew
inside
class
the building.
for ants.
It's not because I can't fit inside the building.
You're not an ant.
Exactly. So
So
it's not
confused.
for ants.
So confused.
Abraham didn't earn it. We can't earn salvation either. And the Bible's consistent with this message.
Hey, I want to point
No, it's
out
not.
that the whole part about
Literally not.
Abraham
No.
and all this is that there's a bunch of stuff he did in order for God to be like, hey, you're my guy. There were things like tests and whatnot. That's the whole point. Okay, look. Evangelicals, I need you to get something. The Bible doesn't teach a no works salvation thing nowhere. Anywhere in there. It's just not in there. It's not a thing. You made it up, and that's fine. I don't care. But, like, it's just not a theme. You've cherry-picked a few verses from some parts, and you've had to ignore whole sections. There was a reason that Martin Luther kind of wanted to kick the Epistle of James out of the canon, despite him being like, well, the only thing that matters is what the biblical canon says. Well, except when you don't like it, right, Luther?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And it's
That you-
because, I'm sorry, but this just isn't a theme that you can really realistically find in the text. At least not very consistently, and not even consistently in the places where you think you can find it. There is a reason why no Christian groups, until like 3/4 of the way through Christian history, got on the bandwagon of deeds don't matter, only beliefs do. No one did that. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Pegajace is asking if a Ceratosaurus can fit inside the building. Well, I know from experience a Ceratosaurus can fit inside the LA Natural History Museum.
You've also
That's a
seen me
building.
fit inside smaller buildings.
Yeah.
I crashed on your couch. I could fit on there. It was a very tight fit, though.
That's true.
Very tight fit.
The couch that I have currently is very long. Like, very...
Still, my tail
Is it
hanged over the edge.
same couch or is that a different couch?
Hmm?
Is that the same couch or is it a different couch?
As what?
That's the one I
As
crashed
the
on.
one that the dinosaur
Oh, it's the
crashed
same
on?
couch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. I really like long couches that I can stretch out on. I'm not
Me
and
too.
I'm not a very big guy, so they don't have to, but even
I'm
still
a big fan
feels-
of sectionals.
yeah. I like those too.
My Unfinished Sock says...
If they look nice. Some just look
My Unfinished Sock says Kip Davis wouldn't fit in a building made for ants, although he might fit inside a building made for, in most dialects,
Ants.
ants, but in some other dialects, aunts.
aunts. Mm-hmm.
With the U.
Message
From the
throughout.
South, we'll say ants.
And the way in is to humble ourselves. The Bible says that all throughout Scripture.
Now sounds like a deed.
all the different
Yep.
books.
Yes.
You got to humble yourself. Who is it? Isaiah 66 that God looks upon? The one who is lowly and contrite in spirit.
Wasn't this section supposed to be how there are no contradictions in the Bible? You might want to, like, okay, this is just like a rhetorical strategy thing here. This video is directed at Christians who are coming up against people telling them that the Bible isn't what Brian Thomas's version of Christianity says it is. And he's trying to equip them with this. So what you might want to do is say, oh, there are no contradictions, and here are a list of the most commonly cited alleged contradictions and why I think they're not contradictions. You would think that would be what he would be doing in this section. Instead, he's just like, hey, God's really cool, and you don't have to do anything to earn his favor except these things that you have to do.
Yeah.
Which,
okay, sure, I guess.
And who
Hey,
trembles at
is that true? George McMarron, Snows, or what? Do you weigh 5,000 pounds? That's 5 tons, right? 5,000
No,
pounds.
I'm significantly. The thing people don't get is that per unit volume, dinosaurs are much lighter than man.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a lot of our internal space is taken up by air. We've got a lot of air sacs. So, whereas mammals are mostly water. All that space is
That
taken
almost
up by
sounded
water.
like air sacs. Sounds fun.
Yeah.
my word.
Yeah.
It's always been that way. So what will we do with this word? So it's a beautiful, I think, aspect of the Bible is its consistency, consistent themes, consistent message, pointing to the Lord Jesus.
I mean, except it's not particularly consistent.
No.
I mean, there are
It is
some consistent themes
when you ignore like significant parts of it.
You know what? Actually,
or just make it say things that
you know what
want it
I
to
think
say.
might be the most consistent theme in the Bible. The need to care for people who are underprivileged, like orphans, widows, the poor, prisoners, and foreigners. In fact, specifically those groups being named several times in the Bible.
Yeah.
No, because if you don't work, you shouldn't eat. You should just starve to death, you lazy little welfare queen.
I just hate that, like, of all the themes that are in the Bible, I think that's probably the most consistent one, is the need to have a society that consciously takes efforts in it via an actual legal apparatus as well as actual individual action to take care of the most vulnerable. And that is also the part that people like Brian Thomas are the most likely to just pretend isn't in there. It's much more consistent than anything about Jesus, much more consistent than even any characterization for God, much more consistent than any aspect of the history of the Bible, because it's basically the entire message of, like, large sections of the law code, most of the prophets, a whole bunch of what Jesus said, and a whole bunch of what's in the epistles. Right through there. In fact, we even get in, it's like Acts, the creation of an entire office for Christians so that some people can be in charge of making sure that the widows and the orphans get their share. That was originally what deacons were doing when they are instituted in the history as reported in the Acts of the Apostles. So, hey, evangelicals, if you actually like the Bible, I don't know, maybe pay attention to the most consistent thing in it. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just an idiot. Maybe I just hate the Bible. Naramda puts for $2 says, ugly bags of mostly water. Yeah, it's more true for mammals than it is for dinosaurs, although it's still true for dinosaurs. Dinosaurs still are ugly bags of mostly water. Kip, that's a Star Trek reference.
I was smiling and laughing because I know that.
Okay. Kip's a fake nerd. Let's not. Let's see. George...
Now I'm sad. That just makes me sad.
Does it?
Yes.
By the way, we should be starting.
I was once told that nerd is the highest form of flattery.
Oh. Well, hey.
So you made me feel bad just now.
I'll tell you what.
Thanks a lot.
You should be, if I remember correctly, playing a Star Trek TTRPG on Friday. So
I'm excited.
I am
to
too.
Get back to it.
Yeah. George, very long name who's been a member for 14 months. Is at the amnio. It says, Sola Fide sounds like an infomercial. Enter the kingdom of heaven without leaving your couch. Call now. Yeah. Look.
Yes.
No matter what theology you're going to hold, if you want to have an internally consistent theology, there are going to be aspects of the Bible that you're going to have to sort of ignore or downplay or explain away. But I'm sorry. Several of the solas in the Reformation are some of the least sense-making aspects of Christian theology that I've come across. Like, sola scriptura, internally contradictory. Sola fide it's just not really in the Bible in any realistic sense, despite the fact that sola scriptura is also one of the fundamental aspects of Protestantism. I mean, soli deus gratia, like, sure, whatever. But like, the perspicuity of Scripture is another idea that a lot of Protestants have that's just absolutely insane. I'm sorry. It's just...
Indeed.
It's just not perspicuous. Perspicuous?
No.
I don't know. Whatever. Words are hard.
This God's Son.
You know what isn't hard? Pillows.
Correct.
Some pillows are.
Well, those are bad pillows.
Yes.
The job of
But
a
even
pillow is
bad
to be
pillows
soft.
are still pillows.
Is our
Oh,
only
thank you. Thank you, Landon, for saying Happy Nerdvember. To me, specifically. Thank you.
Savior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I love how you described it as a miracle. I mean, it truly is a miracle. I mean, 1,500 years to write this whole book, 40 authors from diverse backgrounds.
Yeah, none of that's true. But we've also already
1,500 years. We have no idea how many authors.
Yeah,
and you know,
I mean, we might be able to get a rough estimate, like a minimum, and like probably not much more than.
I don't know. Then you start venturing into this complicated, messy question of authorship, like in terms of what is an author, even.
That's true.
In antiquity, it's not an easy question to answer.
Yeah, especially when you're getting like redactors who might also be occasionally inserting like bridging sections between what they're putting in,
and who like some of this too is self-perception, like how many what we would identify as redactors or just even scribes are clearly understand themselves as part of the authorial process, right?
Yeah.
So it's a mess.
Some number that is probably higher than 10 and lower than 1 billion.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I did it. I found the range of how many people wrote the Bible, everybody. Metageeky Platypus Librarian for $5.
It's a range. It is.
Metageeky Platypus Librarian for $5 says, I want more company as I cook. I'll ask a diversion question. What's the historicity of other major religious figures, Buddha, Zoroaster? So both of those significantly predate like Jesus, and so it's a lot harder to say for certain. I think that Buddha is probably based on a guy. I think
so too.
I tend to think the same about Zoroaster, although what I can say about any historicity for those two, like what they actually did, it's harder for me to.
I don't understand, and I would also say that you should not ask David Fitzgerald this question.
Okay.
But I don't understand the fascination with this, with insisting or like presuming that these are all just mythological people. They're all just fictions. In part just because so much of the actual history behind these people is just it's just entirely opaque. It's inaccessible for the most part. But then so what? Like it's one of these things, right, where it's a basically unfalsifiable premise that gets you nowhere. So sorry.
I mean,
it just bugs me.
To me, I think it's that they're seen as significant figures in terms of like the history of thought of just humans in general. And so I think some people are just curious about what what can we say historically about them? Because history is a little bit of a double-edged sword when it comes to religious figures. On the one hand, you're never going to be able to say everything that's true about a religious figure from history, right? Because it's not a valid possibility. We don't have, like, you know, body cam recordings of their lives, which is what we would basically need to be able to say everything that's reasonably true about this person. On the other hand, there's a lot of stuff that are stories where, as a historian, you're just like, well, I can't say it's not true, but I don't know, I can't assess it. So I think what a lot of people want to do is they want to be able to figure out, like, what things can they say with what amount of confidence about religious figures that are significant to them or the traditions that they come from. And I mean, you see the same thing with, like, political leaders and stuff. Like, what can we actually know about the life of Julius Caesar? And it turns out not as much as we'd like, and that's just how it is. I do also think that some of it is just like, oh, well, I don't like religion, and so I want to prove that the various figures from religious history are fake. Well,
Yeah.
I don't find that a compelling or very interesting idea. But as a rule of thumb, if a religion has a founder figure who's a guy, and I don't necessarily mean like as in a male, I'm just like a person, I think it's more likely than not.
Let's get real. They're mostly guys.
Well, yeah, but they're not all guys. Especially lately, there have been a number of new religious movements that have been started by women. Anyway,
yes,
if a religion has like a guy, chances are there was, in fact, a guy in history who started this out. Some cases we know this more clearly than others, right? Like we get to Baha'i, like the Baha'u'llah and the Bab, definitely real guys. We have photographs of them. We have census data. We have, like, they were in prisons where we have records from the prisons, stuff like that. Why would that necessarily be very different in the past, right? If Baha'i has a guy, the Baha'u'llah, what is so crazy about Zoroastrianism or Christianity or something having a guy? Now, if you want to ask about, say, like Judaism, well, there is only kind of a guy, and it's Moses. But even then,
which guy though?
Yeah,
right.
That's the
like,
thing,
and that's
which
the
guy?
thing that
Yeah, I mean,
okay, Moses
is
is
it
that the guy?
Abraham? Is it Jacob?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like,
Yeah,
that's why it's a lot easier for me to say, like, I don't think
Ezra?
these people, because none of these people are the guy that started the thing. You could argue that really, in reality, the guy might have been Josiah.
Yeah.
But like, no one, he's not seen as a founding figure. So like, for some religions, yeah. Or that's also going to be the case for things like Shinto or various Aboriginal beliefs. Like, there's not like a guy that you can point to. But generally speaking, if religion has a guy, it's probably a real person. Because we see that happen now, right? We see new religions, even major ones, even ones that aren't really very like high control. Like, I don't think Baha'i is particularly high control. And they have a guy, and that's fine. It's probably a guy. We know the same thing with Sikhism, right? They have a few different guys, the gurus. And we're pretty sure that those are historical figures. They come about at a time when, like, history is being recorded in the Indian subcontinent. We're not getting, like, photographs or anything like we are with, like, say, the Baha'u'llah or something. But, like, those are guys. Oh, sorry, I just bumped my mic. Those are guys. Anyway, I'm going to hit play. Except, I guess, for the last guru, which is just the book. That's not a guy.
And yet all pointing to one truth.
Oh, yep. Right hand says Smith puts out John Smith, or I think you mean Joseph Smith, or Brigham Young. Yeah, right. Mormonism's got a guy. It's Joseph Smith.
See, but if you redefine Mormonism to be the invention of the angel Moroni, then you don't have a guy. You see how this works?
But people in Latter-day Saints traditions don't generally say that Moroni is the one who restored the church. They say it's Joseph Smith.
They sure don't.
They credit Joseph Smith with restoring the church. So, for that reason, I think that they think it's the guy. When I think of Latter-day Saints movements, not all of which are the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but when I think about those movements broadly, I think of Joseph Smith as the guy. And they do too. Metageeky, Platypus Librarian for $5 says, "Thank you. These are the sorts of questions that got me sent into the hall during summer school, where I would pull out my books on UFOs and cryptids." Nice. That sounds more fun. Look, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. One of the things I like about cryptids is that it's a little conspiracy theory that is fun and mostly harmless, right? Like, you're not going to get some guy who, like, commits a hate crime because he thinks Bigfoot exists. Whereas a lot of other conspiracy theories do in fact get people to commit hate crimes. So like, you know what? Keep squatching out there, guys. Do it. Do it as much as you want. Keep trawling Loch Ness to find a plesiosaur. Keep marching around like, I don't know, what is it, like Borneo or whatever, looking for orang pendek. Just have fun, man. I don't care. It's great.
But there are some pretty great stories about Bigfoot just tearing apart drug smugglers and drug dealers in the Pacific Northwest, who are, you know, really bad people that got just fucked up by Bigfoot.
Have you seen D.B. Cooper versus Bigfoot?
No, that sounds great.
Okay, so
that a thing?
It is a thing, but before you say it sounds great, my next question is, how often do you watch movies that are like 30% just homoerotic softcore?
Yeah, no.
That is that movie, because that's a David Duchovny movie,
okay.
and he's
Okay. See, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, he's an American like B movie director producer who's known for generally having some reasonably over the top gore with low budgets, and also just really focusing on things like guys' bare torsos while they rub oil on themselves. Just a lot. Like a lot.
Yeah. I see. Yeah, I doesn't sound really like my thing.
Okay. I'll say this. When Bigfoot shows up, it is actually somewhat interesting. A lot of the rest of the time, it's just some like 20-something guys with their shirt off wandering around in the woods, which is like, I know what you're going for, but I just don't care.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? He made the movie for other people than me, and that's fine. And I'm sure those people really enjoy it. And good for them.
One message, one Messiah. And I just think it's wonderful that, you know, the Lord has chosen to preserve that.
Yeah, there's not one message. And
there's not one Messiah either. There sure isn't. Unless, I mean, I guess, no, not even then. I mean, you maybe you could say Cyrus was the Messiah because, you know, the Bible says Cyrus is the Messiah. But then it also kind of says the same thing about Nebuchadnezzar. So,
well, it's almost like the definite article doesn't actually have to refer to one and only thing that has ever existed and will ever exist.
It could be that.
Yeah, I think it might be that the definite article just refers to a member of a class that you should be aware of as the particular member that is under discussion.
Do you think she knows that the Bible says Cyrus is the Messiah?
No.
No, because they would translate that as anointed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one would get the literal translation, and whereas in other parts where they think they can say that it's about Jesus, they're going to go with the transliteration. Kent Jeffrey of Arimathea Halstead says, Kip, I do not care for hunky boys. Looks at movie, Kip. Or do I? Oh man, Psycho Gorman is such a fun movie.
It is.
Which
if you haven't seen Psycho Gorman, one of the best movies that Canada ever produced.
It's on our list.
Is it really?
It's so good. We should watch it.
It is excellent.
There's 300 movies on the list, so I should not.
It's not much of a spoiler.
It's not that many.
But basically, Psycho Gorman.
Oh my god! Seriously, it's like I know there's headers and things, but there are over 300 lines on that.
That doesn't mean there's 300 movies.
I just said I'm aware that there are headers and things. Mm-hmm. So, right, but now I have to. How many are there then? If not, do you have a count? I don't. I looked at it and it looked to me like
here's the thing you do.
Ballpark 300 movies.
Look at how many lines there are, and count up the lines that aren't for movies and subtract that number from the total.
I know how to do it. I just haven't taken the time to do it. I ballparked it, and it looked to me like there was 300 movies.
Well, I mean, I don't know how many there are, so whatever. Silu, who's been a member for 32 months, says, rip squatchers who twist Native American cultures. Look, that's definitely a thing, right? And it's not great. However, if what you're doing is heading out into the woods with your recording equipment with the boys, you're not even hurting the Native Americans whose culture inspired the legends that you've twisted into the Sasquatch thing that you believe in. So I still think that it's primarily going to be pretty harmless, especially compared to other conspiracy theory nonsense that you could be doing, right? Like, a guy held up a pizza place at gunpoint over a different conspiracy theory. Compared to that, Squatchers have never done anything. Right? Like, it's... Like, yeah, sure, you can find things to complain about when it comes to Squatchers in terms of things like, you know, cultural appropriation or, you know, the downplaying of native narratives and combined with colonialism and stuff. But, like, ultimately, stomping around in the woods looking for a creature that's not there, it's just so low on the list of things that are, like, bad. Like, whatever, man. It's just camping with extra steps, and I'm okay with it.
291 is pretty damn close to 300 movies.
I guess it depends on how much you care about precision.
While, you know, people say, like, we don't see, you know, the same kind of miracles maybe that are happening in the Old Testament, those kinds of, you know, I guess big miracles happening. We have a living miracle in Jesus and in the Word of God that He's left for us.
Okay, I need you to... person whose name I don't remember, who doesn't seem to want to be here, I need you to think about this. When people say we don't see...
her name's Becky.
Oh, did we? Okay, Becky. Pretty sure isn't her real name, so I'm sorry, Becky.
Pretty sure not, but it's okay.
Becky, when people say, why don't we see miracles like the ones in the Old Testament, they're talking about things like the Nile running red or the sun stopping in the sky. And when your response is, well, we have Jesus, okay, but do you? Where? Where can I go to find him?
That's not what people were asking.
Right, because when I say a miracle like the Old Testament, and my example is the Nile turning to blood, I know where to go to check on that. It's the Nile. If I want to say the sun stood still, I know where to go to check on that. It's wherever the sun is up. That's half the entire planet. If you want to say, well, we have Jesus, okay, where? And you're also in a group of Christians who don't even think that you even have the miracle of the Eucharist. At least for Catholics, it was like, well, where's Jesus? They'd be like, in the monstrance, in the chapel, in that church.
Right here.
There he is.
Yep.
Yeah.
There it
And
is.
I could be like, well, that
In
just
that host.
Right.
Yeah.
I could just be like,
Yeah.
well, that looks like a weird flatbread thing.
Looks like a piece of bread.
And like,
But it has the true presence.
but at least for the Catholics, there's an answer there. When someone asks Brian Thomas or Becky this, and you're like, well, it's Jesus, like, that is not a response to that question.
It sure isn't.
You could say it's a different miracle, maybe. But if they're asking where are the miracles like in the Old Testament, that's definitely not one of them.
And I just think it's just wonderful. So, yeah. And, you know, whenever we think about this next point, which is manuscript evidence,
We just skipped over contradictions without actually talking about any actual
Didn't
contradictions.
talk about any. Not one.
Oh my!
No.
Why?
But now we're gonna talk about actual things.
We are. Although I don't think we're going to be sticking around for an extra hour because we are at 34%, which is
That's true.
not quite. I mean, maybe someone will come in and give like 100 memberships. It could happen. I don't think it'll happen. But would that actually do it? That would more than do it. That would like double it. So, yeah, don't feel like you have to do that. The Screen Geek for €5 says, "Oh no, I'm late. Are we all right? No, we're not. Did we get Bilbo'd? I actually forgot to check, and we don't currently qualify for it. Let's free Kip, Godzilla. Kip, they want to free you. But the bad news is
what?
it's almost over anyway.
And
Yeah.
I have snuck them in all over the place in today's stream.
You're not supposed to tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I had a pretty big
Well,
one.
the
and
stream's
you
almost
didn't say
over,
anything,
so
but it's okay.
you know,
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about it.
Also, I do want to check on Roshina's fundraiser, see how that's going, to remind people that that is a thing. Oh, look at that. We're at 84% funded. So I want to say thank you so much because I know that a lot of you have come from the audience here. And this is something I've talked about a few times, which is like, especially right now, there is a need for people to come together and to help each other and support each other and do some mutual aid stuff if I want to get all like community organizer about it. And that's what that means, right? It doesn't have to be some kind of like, oh, we're going to go live in an intentional community and we have a co-op with crops. It doesn't have to mean that. It can. But it can also just mean like, hey, someone we know needs to not be homeless next month. So let's scrape together a few thousand so that she can eat, have her medical bills paid for, and not be homeless. That is a thing that counts. And so I want to say thank you so much. And also, it counts just when you guys are like, oh, hey, Dapper's having, channel's not doing well this month, so we're going to scrape together and add to like the Patreon, which you did. And it's amazing. And it has turned October from a month that started out looking like it was going to be pretty bad into actually a pretty great month. So I want to say thank you. Especially since I don't want my October to be bad, because it's one of my favorite months because it's spooky month.
Great month.
Yeah. By the way, Travis Fisher in the chat says, ugh, hello darkness, my old friend. You've come again at 4 p.m.
Well, see, I live far enough south that darkness is like 5:30 p.m., which is fine.
He lives in a place that doesn't observe daylight savings time, the lucky bastard. So.
I know.
But is there a place where daylight savings time, where it is observed, has already ended?
Yeah, most of Europe.
This weekend?
Most of Europe is already in San
Yeah,
I guess.
the United States extended it back in like Bush 2's era.
It doesn't always happen on the same day, I don't think, though.
When it happens on a Sunday. It's the first Sunday in November, if I remember.
First Sunday in November.
Yeah.
Boy, I feel like it was different. But
it was different because after the United States extended it, there was that period where Canada and the United States weren't synced up, and then the Canadians decided to sync up with America. So
I'm talking about when I lived in Europe.
Oh, well then I don't know.
Yeah.
We got. Let's see.
By the way, Kip, did you hear back from Matt Monger?
Oh, damn it.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Dapper.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you to Samantha Heyman, who just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. It is really appreciated. It really does help. And also, one of the things I love about the memberships is it gets other people to get like a little sense of what's coming up, because sometimes I get people with gifted memberships who are like, oh, hey, look at all these cool like early access videos, and they'll hop into the comments, and it's fun.
It's like 5 or 6 months ahead sometimes.
Yeah. I think right now I'm like 5.5-ish.
Nice.
Yeah. I took it easy this week because it's a holiday week.
There's so many manuscripts that have been written over the 2,000 years since the biblical canon was closed.
Wait, the 2,000 years since the biblical canon was closed?
The canon was closed 2,000 years ago?
Wow. Wow.
In what timeline?
Look, you know what? I'm going to hit play because I feel like either she or Brian Thomas are about to say a correction to that. Because I know that Brian Thomas doesn't think that. And I think she misspoke. So unless there's no correction, I don't want to attribute that level of nonsense to Becky, because Becky hasn't shown to be that bad so far.
And also, I want to at least put this out there that there was no point in which a group of people went, and it's closed. It's just people stopped adding to it and stopped like having all these councils where they're like, what is really in it? Should we use this?
I vaguely remember the Catholics in the 20th century coming out with like a official Old Testament canon. So like you might be able to argue that that's a thing that happened there. And the Mormons definitely have a canon that they have as set up, although I don't know the degree to which they say it's closed because they're generally open to new revelation.
She's definitely not talking about the Mormons, so...
Okay, sure, that's fair. But yeah, certainly in her tradition, there has never been a point in which people were like, done. It's just evolved over time. And you could argue that it's closed now because she would reject any new additions. But that wasn't an official thing that happened at a point. That was something that evolved out of the various Protestant arguments about things like canonicity and printing Bibles and things like that.
Scholars believe that the Apostle John penned the last book of the New Testament around 90 AD. So
no one, even most ancient Christian sources.
You say scholars believe the Apostle John penned.
Nope.
No.
And also, she's talking about Revelation, right? And even ancient Christian
And that
sources.
is not the last book.
Well, yeah, but that's what she is talking about.
Not.
I know.
Even ancient sources, like you go back to like ancient Christian sources, they're like, we're pretty sure the John of Revelation isn't the same as the John of the Gospel John, and not the Apostle John. And a big part of that is because like it doesn't seem like the same author. Like you look at the Gospel of John, and you look at Revelation, and this is not the same guy, right? It's like you can tell. You can say like, hey, this is a book written by Agatha Christie, and this is a book written by Stephen King. They're not going to read the same way. They're just not. You're going to be able to tell that was not the same author.
It's been 2,000 years since the last.
Says, some say the Book of Job was the oldest book, and all those people are wrong.
Actually, it's weird because like it's hard to say even what the oldest book is because so many of the books are made of fragments of different ages.
Yeah, because there's poetry that goes back to before entire books. So
the Book of Job one too is that one is literally just vibes. That's the whole argument for the deep antiquity of Job.
It just doesn't list a time period, so it must be the oldest one.
But Kip, it's set in China, so you know.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Because if there's one thing I know about those Chaldeans, they got around to China. Thanks, Kent. Job lived in the East. Must have been China. I kind of want to ask him, why not Japan? How do we know Job wasn't Japanese? Like, I don't know.
Book of the Bible was written. So, of course, that means we've had a lot of manuscripts. So how do the sheer number and quality of manuscripts proclaim the Bible's accuracy?
They don't. They proclaim, okay, best case scenario, let's say everything that they're going to say about the manuscripts is true, right? Which they're going to exaggerate and they're going to twist the truth a little bit. But even if everything they say is true, what that means is that we have a text that we can be well assured is mostly the same as the earliest versions of the text that we have. We can't know if that means it's the same as what the authors penned, if they're identifiable authors. We don't know what the original form of it would be, because none of our manuscripts come from any time that could be reasonably considered to be original. And that a text is well preserved as the text doesn't make it true.
Time out.
Okay.
We have manuscripts of, or I should say at least a manuscript of the Book of Daniel, and probably a manuscript of the Book of Kohelet, which is Ecclesiastes, that probably date to very close in time in which they were composed.
But even then, that doesn't mean that the stories are true.
No.
If I had the original manuscript of The Lord of the Rings that was submitted by J.R.R. Tolkien to the publishers, that doesn't make Aragorn real.
Also, it's no. And it's so this question of original or the first one, again, we're dealing with just an unfalsifiable premise, right? How would we even know in this was the first one? We have no idea,
right? It's like when people are like,
none.
We never found any archaeological evidence that of items that Jesus owned. It's like, how would you know that that's what you found? Even if you had,
how would you know that belonged to him?
Right? Like if you found Jesus' sandal, where would it say that? How would you know?
Listen, guys, I once saw a PhD Dead Sea Scroll scholar who studied under Emmanuel Tove at the Hebrew University stand up in front of a crowd of people and proclaim that if we could extract DNA from 1Q Isaiah A, which is the great Isaiah scroll, maybe we'd find out that it was touched by Jesus.
How? You would need to have a
how would
verified
you know that's
genetic code for Jesus.
DNA?
What?
He said it. He said it. He just said it. I can't account for the things that people say.
Hey, in case anyone doesn't know, and I'm very, very confident that all of the 126 people here know this, but in order to say, hey, we got a DNA match for somebody, you have to already have a verified DNA sample from that person that you know for sure is that guy. So if you found Jesus' DNA on a scroll, there would be no way to know that that's what you had found. What you could say is, we found someone's DNA. You might be able to say, like, well, we know what mitochondrial haplogroup they're in, and if they have a Y chromosome, we know what Y chromosome haplogroup they're in, and they might have markers for like Levantine ancestry or something. Like, you could say some things, but you couldn't put a name on it.
This is not as bad, but it's still pretty bad. Craig Evans, who is a New Testament scholar, who was actually the second reader of my MA thesis when he was still back at Trinity, once said that we did DNA tests on the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is true, and that in the DNA tests we found like human DNA, which is false. So
I would have thought it would be like sheep DNA or goat DNA.
It's mostly like it's all that, right? Like that's
what the actual
that's what the
parchment is made
testing was
of.
for.
Yeah, like it's parchment.
Craig,
what's it going to be? It's going to be a goat or a sheep or something. That's how parchment is made. Do people not know what parchment is? Like, okay, hold on.
Should, right?
We're gonna do a poll. We're gonna do a poll.
The second reader of my MA thesis should know this.
What is parchment made of? Normally, guys. Normally. All right, we're gonna go with
all of this dumb is making my head hurt.
Here's what we're gonna have. We're gonna have
It made my chat pane crash.
And
I blame the dumb.
All right, our options are going to be kid skin, human skin, plant fibers, and turtle skin. See what people think that parchment is made of. There is, in fact, a right answer to this question. So yeah. All right, well, we're going to start wrapping things up, and what we're going to do is when I actually end my talk about what's coming up next, I will then end the poll and tell people if we got it right or not. So, Kip, I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
Wait,
I'm being generous.
God damn, I'm just not ready. Sorry, I'm trying to restore my.
I'll tell you what. I'll give
chat window.
I'll give Vishanti.
Thank you.
2 minutes first. So Vishanti, go.
I'm not gonna need 2 minutes.
I know.
Yeah. So I'm working on a review of a tarot deck that I bought that has a book with it that purports that the cards encode a lot of information that I don't think is in there. But you know, hey, pareidolia is a hell of a drug. So
yeah, I've seen some of this.
Oh yeah, it's well, I think it's being unfairly labeled. Yeah, it's being unfairly labeled scholarship. It is not scholarship. There is a disturbing lack of academic sources included in this book. So
it's an attempt at scholarship.
It's an attempt at something, but if you're a data scientist whose job it is to find patterns in things. Anyway,
Roshan
so that's the thing.
Roshan is kid skin goat skin? So it's goat or sheep skin, or lamb skin, I suppose. Because here's a hint.
Pretend it's
sheep and goats are the same animal. They're just bred for different purposes. It's like cauliflower and broccoli. It's like different parts of the plant are expressed highly. Sheep are just goats with lots of fur. That's it. That's what that is. All right. So, Kip, you got 2 minutes. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think so. So tonight at 7:00 is Budget Scripture Saturday. Let me know if either of you guys want to be there and hang out. I can probably do that. But I'm very excited because Lawrence from the Behold Network is going to be mine and Nitty's special guest tonight on Budget Scripture Saturday. It's going to be so much fun because this is one of these kind of shows that just sort of feels like it was made for Lawrence. So it's going to be great. Everybody should show up. It's on my channel at 7 Pacific. And then there will be Hebrew reading Kiryati Brit this week. I haven't lined up a reader yet, but I will soon. And then I'll just say that over the next little while, people should be keeping their eyes open for the audiobook, which will be coming soon. And then I'm working on some stuff with Dr. Josh and Maya Atkisson that you should be on the lookout for as well.
All right, that wasn't even a minute and a half. Well done. All right, so yes, by the way, everybody, when I said kidskin, I don't mean a human. I mean like a juvenile.
That's where
ovine.
I went right away. That's exactly the very first place I went, and I'm still there. I stopped listening to you after that. So,
Shanti,
Anyway.
have I told you about the Drukari?
it sounds familiar.
If you have, I've forgotten it.
I'll tell you later, but it seems like most of my audience seems to be Drukari, and I just never caught on to that. I'll talk about it later. All right. So what is coming up for me? So Tuesday we've got Kent with Bent. This is going to be Hovind to the Adventures of Bent. It is in fact based on the Zelda 2 start screen. I had a lot of fun making it look like the Zelda 2 start screen. I think I did a decent job. Not perfect, but decent. So that's going to be Tuesday. Then on Thursday, we're going to be doing a premiere. It's going to be the next of the Baritone Creationist videos. I don't think I actually scheduled it, so that's my bad on that. I will make sure to schedule it before the end of the day. Then on Friday, should be back. We should be back for Star Trek Adventures. We were unfortunately on hiatus.
I forgot that.
So we were on hiatus because, Craig McNeil's mom died, and he was going to be missing a number of episodes because I wasn't going to ask him to play while he's trying to deal with all that. And I didn't really want to have a player who was just not going to be there for an extended period, just missing out on everything. And so I just said, look, guys, we're just not going to play for the rest of October. And so we didn't. But we should be back on Friday. Fingers crossed. Then on Saturday, the plan is for this crew to be back. And we're gonna look more into the manuscripts. I'm still a little bit flabbergasted that in the contradiction section, we didn't actually address any actual contradictions. It was just like weird.
I'm not
pitching.
surprised.
It was just
He just went, hey, what if we talk about something else?
Yeah, what if we talk about that there are themes in the Bible? Like,
Yeah,
there are. There sure are themes, I guess. Yeah. All right, so that's what's coming up here as well as on my second channel. By the way, if you aren't looking at my second channel, you're missing out on what I think is some pretty fun stuff. You know, we've got Kip there, we've got Craig, Chesh is there, we got Maddie from Science Side up there, we got Jordan from Reason to Doubt, we got Zerolon who's frequently in the chat, we've got Tiri who's frequently in the chat. I have some art stuff up there. Like, do you want to see me animate dangling intestines? Because I did it yesterday on stream. And I gave you tips as to how to optimize your intestine simulation. So, yeah.
Okay.
It was Halloween. I had to do something spooky.
I guess so.
And intestines are spooky.
Speaking of spooky, I need to go take a nap.
All right. Well, we're going to get out of here, everybody. Thank you so much. Again, no Godzilla. I am just going to wait until the next monitor comes in because I don't want to have to keep dealing with this. It's annoying. Thank you very much, and we will talk to you later. And furthermore, ICE must be abolished. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Bent Hovind, Tapioca Weasel, Max Cherry, North Texas Fossils, John Ackerman, Sphincter of Doom, Regios, Landon, Ian Chen, Eleron Teller, Phil Gevara, Kelvin Brostic Van Manen, Joshua Geese, Wallace, Dan Sheedy, The Plastic Mouse, Arrow Dodger, and Gordon Loves Science. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 15% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.